the Kings had no chance, and this map kind of got made redundant for a little while.
All right, I've just resourced the YouTube stream, so hopefully that will pop up in a moment.
If you guys have any suggestions or questions about the game, King of the Hill mode, just jump in the chat in Twitch or YouTube, or additionally jump over on our Discord and leave some comments in the suggestions.
Does look like we are now live on the YouTubes as well on the official channel. Do appreciate that, Nightmare. Thank you very much. It's interesting how it needs to be resourced. It's a lot less robust than Twitch is in that regard. Alrighty, now that we're up and running, let's kick this one off. We'll just swap that one player back to team 1.
It looked like the download was almost finished, and I've still got a couple of people getting ready.
For anyone watching, if you do want to jump into these matches, they are open to everyone. The one thing we ask you to do is to just open a lobby or a skirmish, download Throne and Raptor Creator ahead of time, just so that you're not downloading during while we're setting up the lobbies. There will hit a point where we will have to just kick anyone that isn't finished downloading, so that we can get underway. So if you want to make sure that doesn't happen to you, pre-download's always a fun time.
It's a good question, Jay Frost, with the T3 artillery not being banned. And it's essentially, if you can get to that stage, then we do need ways, like the peasants do need ways to be able to actually crack the Kings. And if you can scale to T3, that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, essentially, once you get to T3 stage, you should have the T3 defense up as well.
Exactly.
As in defense ready for T3. But if you've got, the T1 missiles, you're not going to.
Or you run with the standard, start getting shelled, panic trying to get shields down before everything goes pop.
Alright, can we get a lock on the lobby just so that we can get this one up and running? Then we'll unlock it as soon as we're going. And my prediction of 50 players was a little bit off. We're going to be up at 60 by the time we start. But yeah, one of the big things is at 10 minutes, it would be very easy to set up, say, 10 arbiters in 6 places, and that would be game over for the Kings just instantly. Whereas it would be much harder to set up that amount of T3 firepower.
I give this one 20 seconds, and then anyone that's not ready or downloaded, unfortunately, we will have to spec you, sorry.
G'day, Sardonic Wraith. There's no such thing as an obsolete PC. It just turns into a streaming box or some sort of server. I'm guessing that means that you feel like yours is a little bit behind to actually jump on in the games. Thankfully, Beyond All Reason does run actually surprisingly well on a lot of different hardware, despite the sheer number of units. It can get a bit rough for King of the Hill, though, because we do actually run into unit cap issues, so...
I find that the King of the Hill tends to run better than, like, team v team games at this size.
True, the units are definitely fighting almost the entire time, which does help. They don't build up as much, and also the things like the tick lines tend to be just that, tick lines. They don't tend to turn into a massive micro fest. And if anybody's ever tried to build themselves a huge amount of construction turrets towards the end of a massive game, and you use the Control-Alt-Shift command to do it, so then they build at random, and they best allocate themselves. Oh man. Oh man, does it slow the game down.
Chug.
Because I think that by doing that, you've issued thousands upon thousands of commands instantaneously. Alright, let's swap this scene change over.
Maybe a record as well.
And we'll get one of those up and running. You never know, if you make this game exciting enough, it might end up on the YouTubes, but that is a big maybe because both Twig and Tank Tom are in the game, so their commentary will probably be bad. Mine will be...
Are you saying that we can't do multiple things at once?
Yes. I was trying to explain this to someone earlier today that I cannot clean and talk at the same time. Those two things are mutually exclusive.
So we have 3 red players for the red team that look very similar color. If you see a red unit doing a really good thing, it's mine. It's stuffing up, it's Tom's.
No, it's not. It's going to be Pormont's or Duffy's. If you see a red unit just derping itself in a corner, 100% that's Twiggo's. Just remember, from the last game, he is sick, so he's
bad excuse.
Excuses.
Alrighty, let's see in chat. Whoever thinks the Kings are gonna win, put a 1 in chat. If you think that the Peasants are gonna win, put a 2 in chat. Unless, of course, the mods end up putting a vote in chat, in which case, chuck your predictions in. We do have a pretty solid roundup of Kings, but we know from Throne that if there isn't an early breaking, it is incredibly hard to push out. The valley in between the Kings and the Peasants is incredibly hard to overcome, and because there's more space for the Peasants outside of it, the chip damage the Kings take tends to be devastating.
Should probably stick that somewhere where you're lucky too. That's why those chats are the same, because they're the same stream open in that window.
Looks like someone on the AllReasonNoLogic account has put a 1 in both the Twitch and the YouTube chat, so I think it might be Twig or Tank Tom that are trying to get the votes skewed in their favor. Hello and welcome everybody to King of the Hill on Throne. Today you're joining me for an exciting game of 56 versus 7, and even better than that, Twig and Tank Tom are in the middle, and not just that, they're on comms while they're playing with me. For those of you wondering whether that's fair, maybe not, but we also think that there's a lot of people watching the stream listening to what's going on, so all secrets will be revealed to all. So what is it that's going on? Right now we have a 10-minute no rush that is denoted by that beautiful lava and, interestingly enough, the topography change which allows this to happen. Throne is normally stacked on its way up, but in this particular circumstance, it's got a lovely donut that everyone has to deal with. That is brought to you by Chronographer from the AllReasonNoLogic Discord. Big thanks to that one. So, how do the Kings win, considering there's only 7 of them? Well, they've got a plus 55% bonus, and if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, you would have heard the concept that 1 is greater than 5, if that 1 is a fist and the 5 are individual fingers. But there's some pretty fierce competition around the outside. Looking at the bottom right-hand side, we do have a devastatingly powerful player, Milady. We've seen some incredible builds out of them in the past few weeks. In particular, there was a great Raptor Creator match where they managed to, on their own, match the eco of a player that was doing co-op eco. And right next to them is Amir of similar fame. So this should be an absolutely devastating position to push out from, but the Kings are backed up by some very powerful players themselves. Pormont, known for absolutely amazing attacks as well as solid defenses, and then we also have Duffy in the top of the map, who is known for the absolutely amazing co-op peasant play, as well as some incredibly solid early T3 out of the Kings, not to mention 2 shitters, Tank Tom and Twig, who may or may not lose the game for the Kings.
Now, a couple of Amir and Melody aren't down the bottom right, where all the most powerful players seem to always go in this game.
It does seem to be it certainly does seem to be a thing, and with T2 already running, they're going to be in a position of power. Now, a couple of other things to note. There are a few unit tweaks. So, for example, you won't be seeing certain missile artillery at the T2 level. It is available at the T3, but we're not going to be able to shell the top of the map with arbiters, and air is off. Now, getting underway, Twig, why don't you run us through your build at the moment? It looks a little bit chaotic, looks a little bit hectic. In fact, one of your solars is not aligned with the others. How does this make you feel? Are your parents proud of you for being such a failure?
They're going to be gone soon. I'm actually just trying to get my eco as far away from this wing as possible by the time we get to the 10-minute mark. So all the stuff you see is going to be gone.
He says building energy converters right by the edge.
They'll be gone.
Tank Tom, with a lot more structure on this end, even though it does seem to look a little bit chaotic, run me through what your plan is before the 10-minute mark.
The plan was going to be to get this T2 up, which I'm bottoming out my metal.
Then eat your storage. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But you are doing one of the cardinal sins. You're constructing other things at the same time as your T2 lab. You've got a comm there, in range. Eat it with your comm, man. If anybody
got someone trying to talk to me at the same time as well. Does not help things.
Look, let's just be honest. If you've watched Tank Tom's Road to OS 25, one of the things that we have gotten into the habit of doing is critiquing each other's play, because we all want to end up at that magical OS 50, though I don't think any of us are quite at that level yet. Especially when you look at what's going on down at the bottom of the map, where you have players like Classic Milady and Emir that are all working together near flawlessly to be pushing out this energy and getting themselves in a great position to carry this game if they need to. But looking at the top of the map as well, we're also seeing a couple of other co-op positions doing it decently well as a few that are not quite as far ahead. When you build labs individually, you tend to fall a little bit behind in those spots, but I do love that there is quite a lot of sharing going on. Now, for those of you wondering, what's with the lack of C on throne? Well, we noticed that when we had C, we ended up with quite a lot of players that would go into a C economy and then wouldn't really contribute to the rest of the match. So instead, we have dried the C out, and now we have these spots where people start with basically nothing, but they are the tipping point of the match. If the middle can hold long enough, then these outside of the map will scale hard enough to overtake the kings. If the middle can't hold enough, then these players need to come online early to help them hold the line. If they do not, it tends to be a king's victory. Now, looking back into the kings, because these are the heroes of the match, I guess you could say, at this particular time, the ones that are going to be struggling, and also because I have to favor Tank Tom and Twig, because otherwise they'll get angry at me. Does it look like we've got that T2 economy starting to roll? Twig has got his T2 extractors going. Tank Tom in a similar position, last one coming down. And it does look like we're going to have a nice aggressive amount of play. Every single one of these players does know what they're doing, and they're going into the level of eco they're going to need in order to hold and then win those early pushes. Now, for those of you wondering around the outside, what can the peasants do to win? Constant aggression. If you control that middle tier and you can shell up to the high ground, you will eventually break through the kings. If you do not control that middle tier, the kings will be able to gain access to all of that additional metal, but more importantly, space. Right now, the kings are limited on space. If their builds aren't perfect, then they're going to be very limited on what they can do. They're going to be constantly micromanaging in their bases. Units won't be able to flow from player to help, and the kings will not escalate their advantage into the late game. So, Unlike on Raptor Crater, the T1 rush doesn't tend to work out quite as well as it does there, because the sheer amount of defenses that can be placed by the players directly in front of the ramps is astounding. However, using T1 for scouting and then using T2 with long range, things like Sheldons, Hounds, in particular Starlights, if you can get them rolling, is phenomenal. The other big one that the kings are incredibly weak to is anything that can traverse a wall. So if you can run up here with some spiders, you're going to get damage done. The Kings need to build defenses against it, but this is a game of choices. You cannot choose to do absolutely everything in the game. Otherwise, you'll end up behind in all of them. There is no jack of all trade in this case. A couple of other things to note. On the peasant side, these cliffs are not always the barriers that you would expect. Quite a lot of them, in fact, are traversable. Once you've got a bot unit, grab that. Use the F2 command, I believe, if you're on legacy keys, and you can see anywhere that isn't red. So, for example, these areas right here, those are traversable. So that means even T3 Razorbacks can walk up them. All right, with 20 seconds to with 2 minutes to go. Probably freaked you guys out just there. With a little under 2 minutes to go, this is the sort of time that the Kings are going to have to start putting their money where their mouth is and getting their defenses rolling, as well as the peasants are going to have to start getting ready to receive those attacks. Comms are the absolute peak of defense against T2 and T3 units. An invisible comm sitting in the right place can do a ludicrous amount of damage. In one of last week's matches, there was a game that was reasonably close. The peasants were slightly winning, but on the bottom half of the map, a push of over 150... oh dear, I've forgotten the name of the lightning tanks. Jaguars. 150 Jaguars pushed a ramp, and a single comm stayed invisible as they started rolling around it, dropped a couple of D-guns, they shot it, it exploded, and it killed over 100 of them, allowing for the ramp to be completely held. For reference, a Jaguar is 330 metal, which means 33,000 metal was destroyed by a single comm. That's the sort of efficiency that you're going to need if you want to try... Well, you don't need that much efficiency. But if you can trade, like, triple the value for a comm, it's worth it. And with 20 seconds to go, let's grab a quick drag across the map to see where all of the units are. And it does look like the Kings are going to be in a half-decent position to hold this one, as the players are a little behind the 8-ball in getting up there. Let's see what they can do, though. Looking to the right-hand side, this is the area that is going to be the most threat, well defended with units moving up, and we do have those Sheldons with the long range, but they're also running into one of the largest offenses out of the Kings. Those Jags going to do decent damage out of the gate, though I don't think they're going to be able to push through with just how much. Something to bear in mind, units that use lightning also have some resistance to lightning, so if these had been pop-ups, they wouldn't have been quite as effective against the Jaguars, but it does look like they're going to be cleaned up. A nice push going up, a couple of beamers, a couple of LLTs, and a couple of sentries. Doesn't look like that's quite enough. And the pawns are inside of Potato's base. This defense looked good, but without any AoE, without the dragon's claws, only the dragon's teeth, a lot of damage has been done here. And if they can grab that construction, the build power as well, that's going to be a nice spot. Now all we need is for that T2 to get back into it and start the shelling. Response coming from the other side of the map. Kukedo is sending units to try and deal with this, but this is going to slow the roll on this side of things. Thankfully, I do reckon this will stabilize nicely. Pushing out with the Kings, though. Looking to the bottom half of the map, we do have a T1 pusher pounders, but they are being shelled by those Hounds. The Hounds, provided they're controlled well, should be able to keep this nice and clean, and with all those LLTs up there and Twin Guards, should be a rough push out for anybody there. Some spiders making their way down on the bottom half of the map. Interestingly enough, you don't actually need these to be spiders, except for the fact that they're coming down from the high ground. They would be able to walk up quite a lot of these areas themselves. Interesting tactic going with Cortex and choosing spiders. You don't normally see the Termite. You normally see the Armada Recluse. Wait, is it the Recluse? I'm not doing well with names today.
It is. You got it right. Have faith in yourself.
I have had a slightly tiring weekend. Does look like this was cleaned up by Milady, the biggest threat in one of the biggest threats in the match. Unfortunately, not going to be taken out by a handful of spiders. Big push in the top half of the map. I like this defense here. The Rattlesnake is going to do a great job at starting to push this back, and there is quite a bit down on the ground to deal with it, but it is only 2 players really that are defending this ramp. You need a lot more than that, because as you can see, if the Fiends start a Russian, well, this isn't. They don't have to get all the way across Siberia.
Friend boys.
And once they're in, they are really in. The one good thing about Fiends is they do have to get quite close, so eventually they'll blow themselves up on things, so just like what happened there with the geothermal, but plenty of pawns running in. And this is where you need to be able to transition very quickly from eco into units. All of these players here, all these players around, so the eco player above, the eco player below, you really do need to do your best to work your way in and try to assist best as possible, even if you're in the back of these maps, these dry seas. Yes, I know you're not going to have a lot of metal right now, but if the players in front of you fall, then that is a problem. What have we got here? Oh dear, we've had a gauntlet put down right next to Cookato's base. That is a big no-no. Looks like Angry will be feeling the wrath right there of that. That is not a good time. If there is a second defense, they will get a ban. You cannot be building defenses in the areas that are used as to be used offensively. Looking around the map, it does look like the Kings are doing very good in the top half of the map to push out, but in the bottom half it does look like the Peasants have got that nice offensive going. There is a decent amount of defenses coming out of Potato with those Starlights, but they are in range of the Sheldons, and so they are being taken out. So much T1 here that the shots are not landing where they need to land. There is a Razorback and more coming, but the question is, will they arrive in large enough numbers in time? Because this is one of those make or break points. Whoever wins this current engagement is going to hold the line for a very long time, and it does look like it is the Kings. Jumping back up to the top half of the map, this is one of the problems if you don't hold the Kings at the ramps. They are spilling out in all directions, and we're seeing, even though the dry sea players are starting to get units out, the sheer mass that's coming down at them will be a problem. And all of the units spilling out down the lanes that did not expect to need to be defended will also be a problem. We do need to see some damage coming down on the Kings soon, and that is what's happening in the top right-hand side. Some Recluses are up on the high ground. They are doing some damage. They're starting to break through, but they're only hitting defenses, which is exactly what we need to see for the Kings to survive this one. And with quite a lot of defenses around here, I think that they will be just fine, though the Recluses will keep on coming. Thankfully, we do have Duffy with enough eco to somewhat manage this, but he does have to get his conversion back down.
Speaking of conversion, I need more of that myself.
Thankfully, the Razorbacks have moved their way around to start defending this and push those units back. And even though we have had a little bit of a problem in this top right-hand side, it looks like it may end up not being too much of a problem overall, because the Peasants are just unable to mount an effective defense in these positions. They are the sheer wave of Welders followed by Sheldons, and then a little bit of spam as well, is just making its way down to the bottom left of the map, taking out the Dry Sea players as they go. The Dry Sea players are not yet a threat, so I do understand taking them out, but they're definitely not the greatest concern. Twig is in trouble right now. Thankfully, with these T2 walls being MVP right now, they are blocking most of the damage that these Kargis are trying to put up, and even though Twin Guards are not the best thing at killing the Karganets, the sheer volume of fire coming down, as well as the Termites, is doing a good job, also having the economy pushed well and truly in. Twig, do you only have one APHIS at 16 minutes?
I'm going into units. Hormont's been going into the eco, so I'm playing more like that player, getting units out.
Fair enough. And thankfully, with the exclusion zone that you've created, you were able to defend this incredibly harsh push of Karganets. I'm surprised that was defended. Jumping back to the left side of the map, these units are just completely unchecked at the moment. They're getting in, they're dealing damage. and they just do not seem, there does not seem to be the combined forces here to stop them. This is one of those times where all the players really need to potentially pull back a little bit, build up the forces, and engage in proper quantities, because you cannot fight this just trickling units in. You have to engage them with force. But they are not the only place with problems. We do see Tank Tom is pushing out with a vengeance, making his way up towards one of the danger zones of the map, trying to get as much damage done as possible, and this attack is going to force units that could otherwise be used for defending that higher ground into a position where they have to defend. Unfortunately for Tank Tom, though, running into a couple of scuttles, taking out a lot of those T2 units. The Pounders being the only ones left, and I don't believe Pounders can actually make it up that cliff. It does look like an unbroken red line, so they might look like a threat, but they're not actually too bad of one. And the real problem they're going to run into is whether or not the power corner in the bottom right manages to find a way in, and it just doesn't look like they're going to. Twig's strategy of pulling right back from the edge seems to be working out very, very well. Finally, the attack on the left-hand side has been repelled, but a huge amount of damage is done, and I think the only reason it's being repelled is because that attack is now heading up to the top, into the top middle of the map. Acom doing a great job with 31 kills at this point, and managing to back out. It does look like the rest of this attack is mostly spam, which I think will get cleaned up nicely. So good defending right here from Retired Panda and Palpic, who are holding the line here. We do need to see some backup though from a few of the other players around them. Right now we don't see I Kill You for Fun under too much threat, and so those snipers would be a great option to push down. Not to mention the sheer amount of reclaim around. You have to put your units where the defenses are, or where the defense is needed. Looking at the rest of the map, it does look like some of the outer players are starting to come online, with Fusions online, Aphises coming up, and a T3 lab as well. This should start to tip some units in. The sort of things that are going to be wildly effective here are your catapults, because even if the other players do get shields, you can still lob those missiles at will. You also do have the option of building vanguards. They are going to be quite strong as well, but they can be blocked by shields, but in enough numbers that just doesn't matter. Looking at the income right now, it is very even at approximately 1500 with approximately 1900 without reclaim for the Kings to 2300 for the Peasants. So even though the Peasants have taken a substantial amount of damage, this top left corner falling, not completely but mostly, the Kings are not pulling too far ahead. This is the normal progression of the game, where there is one area that the Kings do put a lot of force onto, but it doesn't necessarily mean the game is over. It's how the Peasants react to it that matters. Tank Tom's big push all the way, he's stuck all the way back into the base. He's been pushed all the way back into his own base, and working on his economy to try to get the T3 that is required for this next stage. Just missed it there, but a great shot, some great shots coming out of the catapults have fired up into the middle lane. Pormont's build power has been taken out, which means that the counter catapults are going to be very, very slow in coming now. If they can get a couple more shots on, they will be able to punch straight into those advanced converters, which I reckon will detonate that entire entrance open. But we do have Grumpiness's Titans coming in to try and defend this one, and those will be a staunch wall that will be hard to push through. But looking at the top of the map, all of that defense has done an incredibly good job, but it is finally starting to fall. Retired Panda and Palpikip have done an absolutely amazing job of holding this, but with the limited supports provided by the players around them, there really was only so much time that they could continue to hold out. And with the beamers falling, with the construction power falling, and now with the conversion down, it's just going to be a matter of time before this Bastion of Hope is completely destroyed. Speaking of Bastions of Hope, we have had J Frost and I Kill You for Fun holding out with snipers in the next lane across. They are continuing to do so, but these probes are getting deeper and deeper into the match. We'll see how much longer this top half can hold out for. Economy's running in parallel, but once players start falling, the Kings should start pushing ahead. The question is, will this bottom half of the map be strong enough to break in anytime soon, or will the Kings start to wrap around? Right now, the tools for the amount of reclaim are not working in this one particular area, but looking at the sheer number of welder corpses there, I would say that there is probably close to 20,000 metal, if not more, in this top triangle. Because a lot of things were killed by beamers, they did all leave the corpses. If this does clear up, I would either there we go, 37.6 thousand metal reclaim in this top part of the map. That is enough to change the game for either team. Whoever gets it is going to be in a good spot. If you can't get it, degun it. Looking at the bottom of the map, it does look like Portmont has managed to get their build power back online, and with so many T3 units pouring out, the catapults are not able to get in range to take it out again. One of the things you have to try to balance as the peasants is how much do you try to kill the enemy units versus how much damage you try to do to the base. If you spend too long killing the base, then the units will overwhelm you, but if all you're doing is killing those units, then the Kings will continue to scale. Does look like the top of the map now is starting to turn into a graveyard. It doesn't look like the players on the dry sea have managed to come online fast enough to assist, and now we've got T3 starting to get down into these large wind farms. And more than that, we have the ticks inside the base going for the converters, some sprinters trying to clean it up, but this will be just a matter of time. And because of all the chain reacting, these ecos are going down in a big way. This is going to even things up quite nicely, though. Looking at the economy, it is well in favor of the peasants because they are getting a bunch of the reclaim.
Damn.
One of the things we desperately need to see out of the Kings.
What happened, Tom?
Oh no!
Got the back.
Oh dear, vanguards. Oh no, they're your vanguards.
I had Kargs come up the back.
All the Karganets that were targeting Twig came their way across to Tank Tom, and they have cleared him out. Tank Tom's going to need this is a complete reset for Tank Tom. This has just dropped the King's economy from 2,000 to 1,500, which means that 25% of the metal income is off of the map for the Kings. This is a absolutely devastating blow, and this is one of the reasons that when you're the Kings, you have to win in a convincing fashion, because even a single broken lane for the Kings can result in a massive loss, because you're losing a seventh of your entire team from a single player going down. But not only that, that attack avenue becomes a opening into the heart of the base. All that would need to happen right now is for a large volume of either vanguards or other units that can climb those walls to punch on in. Not to mention, the Kings now have to devote a lot of their energy to defending that position, which was being taken up by Tank Tom. So the units that are needed for defense are not going to be in the other locations. And we can see that immediately as the build power has gone down for Portmont, and these Titans are out there basically undefended. We're going to need to see a real pullback from this top side of the map, which gives the peasants time to recover up there, to try and sweep down from this top half, from this right half of the map, back down and around, to put the peasants that are fighting in the bottom of the map on two fronts instead of just the one that they're pushing. And here comes the big push, I think. We're getting a large number of ticks, we're getting juggernauts, and we're getting demons pushing in. The juggernaut is an existential threat in this situation, because regardless of whether it does the damage, if it gets in, its explosion will do the damage for the Kings. For the peasants. So as long as it walks up, though, it does look like the corpses of the demons are its biggest problem. Twig has played defensively on this one, has held his area, but the question is, can Twig hold all these demons that are running straight into the middle of the map? I don't actually reckon that there's anything that's going to clear this demon up before it at least gets the build power in the middle of the map. And if the build power gets taken out, then there goes the Titans. And I do believe that the Kings are essentially done for now, unless we see some sort of miracle, because with another player going down, the middle eco is gone, the T3 defenses are gone, and even though the Kings have done such a good job of clearing the top of the map, I reckon that they're toast. Twig, your comm was not in a position. This is all your fault.
Yes, my comm was in my lane defending ponies. This is why, as the eco position, I mean, I don't know where that comm went as eco position in the middle. I always keep it, just in case. But obviously, we were never going to win that one. That was just...
very well done out of the peasants in the bottom half of the map. You guys tried the T1, you pushed with T2, you came over the walls with T3, you put pressure on with T3 at the ramps, and you sieged until you cracked and broke. And not only that, you rotated the units up to take out areas that, even though they had the information, the attack just hadn't come onto them. It's a really good timing right there.
You do this one at like plus 70 last time, I reckon. I just feel like we could not compete.
You definitely struggled, but consider that the top half of the map couldn't compete with the top half of the map couldn't compete either. So.
Part of one thing I did wrong was, rather than continuing to push that open top side we had, I tried to start fighting down the bottom where it was all heavily defended on the peasant side, and I should have just kept going around the outside.
The fact is,
ignored this bottom side.
It takes a long time to break the Kings. Even if you're in good positions, it takes a long time to break the Kings. If you are in a position to be walking around the outside dealing damage, that is 100% the call that should be made. The Kings are going with one final Razorback push. They've got one comm left. And it is not long for this world. We'll see how far this squad of 73, which was 100 Razorbacks, manages to push its way out. These have been shared between the different players that have energy left, though a bunch of them have gone to Grumpiness, who definitely doesn't have the energy to power them. But once these units fall, I think that's going to be the end for the Kings, and when the Kings are ready to, we'll appreciate a Control D out of that last comm, so we can start jumping into the next match. Very well played though out of the peasants. The scaling in this bottom half of the map was excellent, especially considering that they did not take the foot off of the gas the whole time. Top half of the map, particularly this top corner that was held by Palprica, and I do believe it was I'm very sorry, I'm missing your name from the list now. But that one top spot was done incredibly well. You held for an incredibly long time against overwhelming forces, so nicely done. GG, and well played by everyone. Let's get ready for the next game. If you enjoyed this one, like, subscribe. Jump into the AllReasonNoLogic Discord. If you're enjoying the stream, please feel free to leave a follow, leave a like, subscribe to the official, or jump over to, jump over to our channels where we're also streaming this, and give us some love over there as well. We do appreciate it. Let's get the next one up and running. We'll see how big the lobby is, and we might move over to Raptor Crater.
Not bad. I reckon I'll jump into spec for this one.
Alright, with 60 players, I reckon we can either do another throne, or we can do Raptor Crater. Raptor Crater is at its most optimal with 60 players, but any bigger than 60 and we can't really do throne anymore, so I'll leave that decision to you and Twig.
I reckon we go to Raptor.
Alrighty then. We'll get that set up then, and we will... There we go. That is the presets for Raptor Crater being loaded on in. We'll get that up and running, and then we should be good to go. Kings, if you want to cycle out and give someone else a shot, we do need 9 of you, so bear that one in mind. If there are no takers for Kings, then we are happy for players to repeat. Good day in the chat. Do see Grim asking what map it is. It is Throne, but it was answered by Thule. Thank you for taking care of that one. While we're casting, it can be a little bit hard to check the chat, but we do our best. Anything on our side, Tank Tom?
Tachyon Lance giving me some praise, unlike you guys. Mentioning that I've really improved my gameplay.
There we go. Make sure to hype up Tank Tom if you do run across him, whether
Tom,
it's in stream or in game. We
your
definitely
base
are
was the
quite
prettiest
harsh on
explosion, Tom. That's a compliment.
Hey, at least I got out and killed some of my peasants.
I mean, I killed a few wind towers and a couple termites. Oh man, those guys down the bottom are just too powerful. I did have Maladay in that, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, there was a reason I didn't go bottom right.
Like 3 minutes.
Maladay, Classic, and Emir all pushing your lane.
Hey, I held it.
You did for a while.
Okay, let's just move some players around.
Yeah, anything that's not 55 is new down there.
So we had Baby Evis last time, did we?
I'm gonna say yes because they're 55. Yeah, that'll be.
No, somebody's just put them up there then. That's the wrong bonus.
I think we'll be going with a plus 60 for this one. Is that for 60 players? Is that about right?
Yeah, it seems Legion to be.
Legion we will leave for the last game of the night. So for those of you that are interested in Legion, we'll probably try to get at least one, maybe 2 more in before we put Legion on.
Alright, Evis stays up there. They weren't in the last one. Kakado was in the last one, weren't they? And guys, you can jump back down if we don't get the 9.
Sorry, has anyone else noticed that Emir's up to 76 OS?
That is
practice.
How
very high.
When the game starts favoring, like, if you the higher your skill is, the harder it is to push it further and further into your OS, because it will start favoring you, so you'll start getting less and less OS per match. That's crazy. All right, we're looking for one more king. Taxman, you haven't been a king recently.
You have 20 more seconds. If anyone doesn't jump down there, we'll let someone that's previously been a king jump down there.
In fact, at this point, if someone who has previously been a king wants to jump down there, more than welcome. All saying in chat that Emir is OP. That's true. It does also balance you with lower OS players, so you definitely do have to carry harder. But I think once you're in that sort of 50+ OS sort of bracket, I think even when you get matched with a low OS player, it's that's still going to be in the top 1% of the game.
We're only looking for 9, aren't we?
Yes. So
yeah, I think here we go. Oh, OP Man's jumped down there.
We'll give OP Man a go, because OP Man is one of the moderators, and we do appreciate them stopping in to play with us. In fact, we have 3 mods in the game right now, 2 spectating, 1 actually in game. So we do seriously appreciate the support that you guys give the channel. It's always nice to be on the main and delivering content for you. We do love Beyond All Reason, and it's very nice to see how active everyone in the community is. Just a quick FYI for anyone who is listening in chat, who, if you're not aware of this, All Reason No Logic is available for free on their website, so if you want to get into it, there is no barrier to entry. Just download and go. The game's very friendly. There's a lot of noobs lobbies when you're joining, and we've found that so long as you're sticking somewhere around your OS, a lot of people are more than happy to give advice and teach. Not to mention, it's starting to build up. It's starting to build up a decent amount of guides and whatnot on YouTube that'll help you get started. The big thing to remember is that your resources are actually more than they appear to be. So you've got your energy, you've got your metal, but you also have build power as a resource. So once you start learning to balance those ones out, basically when you're running low on power, build power. When you're running low on metal, work on metal. When you're running high on both, build power, you'll start to get comfortable with that rotation, and you'll start finding your feet. A good opener on most maps is 2 mexes into a wind, into another mex, another wind, and then a bot lab. That is the basic start for quite a lot of maps. Bear in mind the wind level does change, so you might want to throw a solar in there if you need to. Jello Beta is asking if there'll be Legion. Yes, there will. The last match of each night, we throw Legion on. The reason we don't throw it on earlier is because we do need to get a game to cast, and often the Legion ones tend to favor one team heavily over the other. Legion is a force multiplier if you've got any experience with it. Once a Legion ball, I think, is significantly stronger than just about any other faction's ball. Think of it in terms of a Protoss death fleet versus just about everybody else back in the earlier days of balance in StarCraft 2. Alrighty, we've got the 9 players. I think we're done with downloads. Let's get this one underway. Looking at the 78 players, we probably need a plus 65. I actually think Ortab's probably right.
Yeah, we will.
Definitely. I'll start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Twig, are you sure you can do that?
I'll just do the last player.
Okay, I'll do the other ones.
It's taking all my APM and focus. I'll get it right though.
You should ask Nightmare about the events, something that I saw in the chat, the in-game chat. He's mentioned something in there.
Okay, sorry. Yep,
new events
I
role
missed
on the
those
official
ones.
Discord.
So in the one of the big things to do is join the official Discord. In the official Discord, there is a new events role that you can join into, which will announce I do believe it will announce the events too. Sorry, Nightmare. I am. For whatever reason, when I see that the chat is red going directly to me, I miss it because red text is usually error encoding, so I blank that one out. But no, seriously, do join the official Discord because of there's always stuff upcoming, and it's the best place to keep up with what's going on in the game. G'day, Bass H. Thanks for joining us.
And thanks for the follow, Mrs. Trumptastic.
Indeed, thank you for the follow.
I'm just looking at some of the comments we've got from Dawn of My Requiem, having a chat to one of the other guys on our YouTube channel, mentioning how they reckon the Kings is going to be a very scary position to hold. There's definitely more consequence for your mistakes as a King. But it can be good fun.
As to be expected, when you're 1/9 of the team, a mistake is a massive deal, but when you're only 1/70th, a mistake is not so bad.
The other thing that you can do is if you're considering jumping down there, now that we've got a fairly
the map did not set up properly, guys.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't dislike it.
I wonder whether the map has changed, because that's the same one that we used to run. So I wonder whether something's adjusted and the map level is different to what it used to be.
If Nightmare's there, maybe we can run your...
Oh, we did have this issue last week, didn't we?
We had a different height map issue, but it didn't have...
No, it was similar to this.
We don't actually have a hill in the middle this time. Well, I think we might need to read this one. Sorry, guys.
Interesting, because that's the same one that we have been using previously. So I'm not sure what the current one is then.
We'll get Nightmare to pop it, and then we'll just overwrite our presets.
Yeah.
Assuming he's there.
So for those of you wondering why we couldn't just go with that one, part of the economy of the King's team was under lava. So we just need to work through that one. And then once we've adjusted the level slightly, we'll be back to it. We are using some very experimental settings to make this work. Messing with the topography, I don't think is using the game as intended. Not to mention the fact that we do attempt to do this with very large numbers of people. We are most certainly pushing some of the edges of what is allowed. Got a retired now what? I see that you're posting a 5 into the chat. I'm not entirely sure what you would be voting for. 1 was Kings, 2 was Peasants for victory. I'm guessing 5 is for the casters to win, maybe? Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I'm going to take it as 1. Does look like the make ready command has been used, so we should be getting underway momentarily. There we go. Hopefully we will have fixed up that little issue and we'll be back at it.
Was an odd one. The way these maps are modified is, I believe, you identify the heights, and then any of a specific height on a map can be modified to another height. Yes, we've got, this is loaded properly. We're all good. We're all good. So yeah, if the base heights of a game get changed at any point, that will affect the presets that we have.
G'day, Forgottles. It looks like we've got a vote in favor of the Kings. Reckons it's going to be a Kings win. We'll see how it goes. That looks much better.
Has the middle always been that high?
I believe so. It's always been somewhat high, and I think it's also part of why it's so hard to build a T3 lab.
That's right, because if you build your T3 lab on these ramps here, then it doesn't want to place. You have to get it outside of that inner ring. Got everyone getting their way in. Looks like we're getting everyone moving on and out. I'm getting set up. Nope, that's right. It was interesting when you look at some of these and you go, what's that red player doing? Oh no, they're just the weird blue.
Something which I've been thinking about recently. we have all of the Kings players starting at the backmost mexes, right? I think that's something which we've all just sort of done through the entirety of this. Considering that you can't build the T3 lab until the middle of the map, if all Kings built in that middle section, it would really force that defense a little bit further out and hopefully make the ring. I think it'd be more dangerous, but I also think that you would end up with some stronger plays out of the Kings because they'd be able to get the T3 labs in range of the build power. And they're also right in the middle of all the mexes, so it might make it faster and easier to get build power to all of the places. I'm going to try that next time.
Set up. Yeah, I might give that a shot, setting up between those middle two mexes rather than your back ones. Because, yeah, you're right, the T3 lab has to be built outside of about that sort of a range. I have to give that a shot.
Good day, and welcome everyone to Beyond All Reasons King of the Hill on Raptor Crater. This time we've got 81 peasants versus 9 kings. That makes this a 90-player game. Interestingly enough, this one's going to be a rough one for the... This one might be a rough one for the kings. We've got some very high skill around the outside, and I do believe that some of these eco corners are going to be very, very strong. Those of you joining us, this is joining us and haven't joined us before, this is King of the Hill, where we put 9 kings against as many peasants as we can get our hands on. The concept essentially being that a fewer number of strong players working together can beat all of the individually weaker players. A couple of rules to make this fair. There is a 10-minute no rush, denoted by the lava. That lava drops at the 10 minutes, opening these lanes up. We have turned air off, and we have given a plus 65% bonus for the kings. That means that their eco will scale significantly harder, but it also means that they will be on their own and struggling against what could be a lot of aggression. Does look like we've got some players trying to break the rules already, with Diazepam trying to get units across, only to discover lava is lava. Joining me in the casting booth, we do have Twig and Tank Tom, who are going to take over for me for just a quick second.
What are you doing to me? I'm playing.
Oh, you're playing? Well, you're going to take over for me for a quick second anyway.
I'm building wind towers.
So at this stage of the game, everyone's going through their fairly standard early build sort of phase. So you can see the kings in the middle are all getting up those mexes, sending those constructors out to build those. If we look at some of the corners, you've got a whole bunch of energies going down. Duffy's got his build power getting prepped, ready for that T2 transition, which can come through ridiculously fast for some of these. What are we pausing for? I'm not sure what's going on.
Have we got all the kings around?
I believe so. I'm not. Battle
started.
Okay.
Oh yeah, one of the kings is AFK by the look of it. Just some guy.
Just some guy. Are you there?
It doesn't look like he's dropped, but it doesn't look like he's doing anything either.
I wonder if the mods can force Tank Tom into that position.
Sorry about this, everybody. It is vitally important that all of the kings are here, so if just some guy has actually gone, we will need to do a redo, or if the mods can do some shenanigans to throw a different player over the top of him. Oh, there we go.
Tom's going to be jumping in, I think.
Excellent.
We are enemies.
Alright, everybody, that means we can do some slightly different commentary on this one. This can be the battle of David versus Goliath. Will the slingshot or the massive man win? You can decide who is who. I know them in real life, so I know which one's taller, and I know which one I'm calling which one. Ironically, that actually means that I'm backing David, because he does win, even though
Well, we're both 1-1. We've been in the same teams last 2 games.
It looks like I've got controller stuff, so we should be good to go.
Just before we get back in, Tank Tom, since this will be your last opportunity to check the chat, just make sure that that is all nice and covered before you actually do your thing, and then quickly check why you've got a build order. Good day, Varan. Go Peasants. I hope we get to see a peasant win after the after what could have been a actually, I just hope for a close game at the end of the day. I enjoy seeing what both teams can come up with. I would really love someone to win with Scuttles though. That'd be amazing. Just for anybody who is on the AllReasonNoLogic side of the chat, that chat will be somewhat unmonitored till the end of the game, just because Tank Tom is now in game. He's taken over just some guy, so just bear that one in mind. If you want to send messages that will be seen, they'll be over on the Beyond All Reason official channel, which I can see. Oh, this is different. We've got multiple comm detonations on the King's side of things. Kings do not normally sacrifice their comms because they have so few, but going into using it to get that earlier T2, in particular the T2 constructors, that could be a really big change if you leave them. Actually, this is quite an interesting thing. It would give you enough metal to get yourself up and running, even if you just reclaimed it down to 1% and then immediately started resing it. That would actually get you your mexes, your storage, whatever it happened to be, all fully eaten by baby Elvis. Unfortunate there. But anyway, if you did do that, you could actually probably have your comm back up in no time, and still be up and get yourself up and running. I haven't tested that, but it would certainly be worthwhile. Alrighty then, now that we are back up and running properly, let's take an overview of what exactly is going on, who is where, and what is going on. In the bottom right hand side, we do have what looks like some very strong co-op eco coming out of Hot Potato and Twig, already going into the fusion. That's going to be a sub 5 minute fusion. Hopefully we'll see a sub 8 minute APHIS. That'll be absolutely excellent. As long as they do some handing out of T2 to help the rest of the team, they should hold in front, which will be very nice. On the left-hand side, a little bit slower behind the 8-ball. It doesn't look like as much sharing, but the constructor bot is moving around the map now, so we should see some decent stuff running through there. Hopefully that corner will pick up as we go. The top left, which is normally known as the Super Eco corner, running a little bit. What is going on? Yep, we've got some in the bottom left. We've got some shell shockers that are trying to take advantage of this one. Diazepam, the player that tried to get units across the line, please make sure that you are not breaking the rules. You've got to wait till that 10-minute mark before you can attack. Good pause there, Tank Tom. Alright, looking at the top left-hand side, Milady is going for a co-op eco build with Victor X, XII. For those of you that know Roman numerals, I do believe that is 12. So Victor 12. I wonder what happened through for 1 through 11, or perhaps it's a generational thing. On the right-hand side, we've got 2 fusions being built at the moment. One of them is just being built tokenly, though. So the co-op corners are doing exactly what they need to do and working themselves up to the point where they can compete with the Kings. looking around the map, hopefully we'll start seeing some units coming up in about a minute to 2, and some defenses to hold these lanes. Kings, how are you all going in the middle? Does look like the middle player is running a little bit behind where we would hope to see on the for the eco. Just getting their fusion up now, but they are doing very well on those advanced extractors. Already got 3 of them up and about to be 5 momentarily. Full on metal though, which means that they definitely need to drop down that build power. Something to bear in mind, the T2 build power is off this game, so you're going to be stuck with T1 build power. If you want to try and be slightly more efficient, then make sure that you grab yourself the decoy comms. They have 300 build power instead of the 200, and that's going to come into play when the unit cap is a problem. Thanks to For Gottels. Glad that you were enjoying the stream. We do appreciate you being here, even if it wasn't for the whole time.
That was an overflow. Sorry.
Tom Lockwood, I see that you're getting ready with some T1 for the King side of things. I would highly recommend T2. A King stuck on T1 is certainly not going to scale as hard as they need to make this viable. Your ability to... The plus 65% is going to be overtaken by the sheer number of peasants if you're not scaling that eco exponentially. Tank Tom, how are you going with that slightly slower start?
Struggling.
I can see that. You've got 2 minutes left, and that fusion is... Oh, wow, you are so energy locked.
Yep.
Hopefully someone else will be able to send you some energy. We'll have an eye out on Twig, though. That should be... we'll see exactly how these are going. In fact, I've timed that just well. First APHIS of the map has come online, and it was at 8 minutes, just as I hoped it would be. Nice work, guys. Keep the scaling running. If we look at Milady, not far behind either. This one's going to come up in 30 seconds or so based on some reclaim. So fingers crossed that we get some decent coverage there as well. Triple fusion coming down in the top right hand side for Potato and Lingerion. Alrighty then. Twig, how are you feeling about the peasant's position at the moment?
I'm just chilling. Duffy's doing some pretty good job of going for that second APHIS. I'm hoping that's going to be up shortly after the 10-minute mark, and maybe I'll get a unit or 2 to micro. And I'm going to get my commandering position for some D guns with an energy storage by that 10-minute mark.
Good idea. So for those of you on the peasants team, loading these ramps with comms is a really good idea, and it makes it near impossible for the T2 to punch through unless it has a massive sieging and range advantage. There is a lot to be said about towers, but there's more to be said about going on the offensive. And speaking of going on the offensive, let's have a look at the King side of things. I'm worried about the defenses, to be honest. I'm very worried about the defenses. A lot of players running quite behind this time round and relying on the units to do it. Problem is that there is not a lot of units out on the map. With 20 seconds to go, let's do a quick bandbox, and I'm seeing 500 units on the map, and only a handful of them are for the Kings. So the Kings are going to have quite the struggle on their hands for this one. Let's run them. There we go, that is 10 minutes. The lava is dropping. Let's see exactly what happens. Good luck, everybody, and let the mayhem begin. It does look like some big sieges coming straight on in. Let's have a look at the bottom of the map where these lightning turrets are going to clean up a lot of those ticks. Moving over to the left-hand side of the map, Tank Tom's lane is in trouble. Going for the T2 defense is ill-advised. But with that late start, only so much that you can do. This is a massive break. I reckon that this could potentially be over, as long as the Kings have to ping this so that the other players know to get units out to defend it. But this is multiple players breaking. In fact, three lanes have broken in. We have units in the middle of the map, and we're about to have a lot of blitzes in the middle of the map. The defense is just not strong enough this time round. Oh no. A handful of rovers grabbing the Fringe's conversion. That's a big loss for the Fringe right now. Does look like Tank Tom has been essentially eliminated with units coming in. Same with OP Man as well as Tiny Tremor. This is going to be an incredibly short Kings match unless we have Ortab who can get a lot of units up very quickly. But with T2 Sprinters, a lot of damage is going to get done before anything can stop. It does look like the T1 out of Tom Lockwood, not enough to stop the larger volumes of T1 that were coming out. That lack of eco scaling, unfortunately, this is why we do put a skill limit on who we usually allow to have as the Kings. If you do want to be a king, I would highly recommend jumping in and learning a couple of builds from previous videos. Really important is to get at least one fusion up and your T2 mexes. That is the baseline. Doesn't look like it's completely over for the Kings, but the pressure is going to keep piling on, and we're going to have to see some pretty amazing stuff out of them if they want to win. Hopefully these areas with the large number of eco will start getting online and can start to push this. Units pushing in uncontested through Tom Lockwood's lane, as well as but the rest of the map has somewhat stabilized. Tank Tom stabilizing with some pounders, but the units have changed directions and they're heading up through Avalon's base. Avalon doing his best to clean it up with the salamanders, but a couple of units are getting through, and they've popped the conversion, which has popped the build power. That's a devastating loss for Avalon, and that's happening right as his lane is starting to be pushed in with ticks and snipers. This is going to be a really hard defense, if not an impossible one for the Kings, as the units are just going to start to build up for the peasants and they're going to start to rush themselves in. We do have a couple of Tsars that are trying their best to defend, but the unfortunate thing about the spread of the units right now is that is not going to happen. That is not going to be the strongest defense for long, and the snipers are taking some strong shots at them. Thankfully, they are low on energy, so they're not getting those off efficiently. Tiny Terror doing his absolute best to hold this up to hold on with the T1 versus T1, trying to get that APHIS up, trying to get the economy to bounce this back. One lane holding, another lane not. And the units just keep pouring in, but it is the left side of the map. Tank Tom doing his best to take over a player that went AFK, but unfortunately, with that being one of the higher pressure lanes, just not quite enough to hold, and the Kings have ceded about half of the outer ring, which is not a position you want to be in. Not to mention that the T2 is also here for the peasants. So even though there is T2 out of the player in the middle, that means they're not scaling, and those hounds are getting some decent damage in. All it's going to take is for a couple of holes to be found in the defenses, and we should see some more destruction out of the Kings. Does look like we've got a push up from the maroon player. Sorry, I've looked at your name and I've attempted to pronounce it, but not my strong suit. Managing to take out one of the high ground positions with the termites. Unfortunately, though, with comms in place and a large number of brutes coming to try and hold this, there's only so much damage that will be done. Here. We've also got some decent defenses in the background, so if they go the wrong way, not going to work out well for them. I'm gonna go. Oh, what have we got?
That's me, guys. I've got a persecutor on a hill.
I think at this stage it might be somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't think it's overly.
But yes, please try not to break the rules. You cannot use structures for the offense, but we do have pawns into the center economy, which should be one of the biggest in the games, and they have just taken out the build power as well as the conversion, and they're heading towards the APHIS. That is going to be a devastating blow for the Kings, and one which is going to make it incredibly hard for anyone to come back from. Once this one pops, the T3 reinforcements that were going to be used to hold will not exist anymore, not to mention the build power that OP Man was trying to get up was in range of that explosion. So with units flooding in onto the King's side, unfortunately, I would say that this one is over, and it's just a matter of time before we jump into the next one.
Yeah, that just goes to show how critical the start of your builds are.
Well, if you the thing is, if you think about it, the amount of eco that you gain between the 9th and 10th minute will be somewhere in the realms of 100 times greater than the eco you gain between the first and between the start and the first minute. So if you start a minute behind like you did, then you're about 50% of the player that you would otherwise be at 10 minutes, which is a crazy thing to think about. Not to mention, the unfortunate thing was in the lane next to you, a player decided that T2 was not the choice for them, which makes it incredibly difficult for any of the players next to them to survive. We also had a lack of defenses at that 10-minute mark. I think a few of these players not quite expecting the aggression that the peasants can put out at 10 minutes. Do bear in mind, if you do play in the king's position, it is entirely possible for every single peasant on the map to get 50 blitzes by 10 minutes. If you get 50 blitzes by 10 minutes, if every player gets 50 blitzes by 10 minutes and there are 70 players, that means there'll be 3,500 blitzes on the map. Good luck. Does look like we have a rolling bomb that's been added into the map. I zoomed in a little bit too close for that one. So Johnny Drops Tay was asking, why did Tank Tom lose though? So Tank Tom wasn't actually supposed to be in this game. Another player jumped into his position. Another player joined in on the Kings team and left. So there was about a minute of AFK in that position. That minute of AFK meant that Tank Tom was was essentially a minute behind in his build when the 10-minute mark came. When the 10-minute mark came, he was also one of the lanes that was pushed the hardest, so it was just a very hard spot for him. If it had been a couple of the other lanes, it wouldn't have mattered, but that is how the game sometimes runs. Another large explosion out of the epic rolling bombs right there. And that should be essentially the end of the Kings, and we'll get this one up and running for a new match. Hopefully we will have a slightly more competitive fight out of the Kings this time round.
That last com's just about to go down now. And with that, I reckon it's back to the lobby and off we go again. Who did I end up taking over from? It was just some guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's get things up and running for another match. I think we will chuck Legion on for this one. And then if we do have another quick one, then we will get 2 more games in. But otherwise, if we do have a long one, it'll probably just be the one more.
Let's get some experience in the middle, I reckon.
We definitely need some experience. That was a masterclass in what can happen if there is a lack of experience with the Kings in the middle. I do definitely encourage you to give a couple of the build orders a go if you are new to it and want to give it a go.
We do change the bonuses around a bit, but a really good baseline is if you can do any of these maps on a plus 45% bonus, end up with a fusion and units with some defenses pumping at the 10-minute mark, then you know you'll be around the mark that you need to be at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Do you have the tweak for the chain reactable T2 construction turrets? Were we putting them on now, or would that be in the next game?
We might as well.
I think we can put those on.
Give me a second, and I will see if I can find it.
And if you do find it, throw it to us in our Discord after the stream's done tonight, so that we've got it for future.
One of the things that we need to get around to doing is basically creating a spot where they're all sitting.
Yeah, we do have that. We're just really unorganized. We've got the spot for it. There's just nothing there.
There we go. I mean, I love how we say this as I'm jumping into our Discord to find it in a thread that's there.
Thanks to Chronography, he's put them all there.
Yeah, that was I was going to the thread that he's made for us. Okay. Are you happy with those 9 that have got the bonuses at the moment? Some of them were from the last game, is the only thing.
Do we have any... What are we looking like we're up against? 67. I've not seen the Shepherd before. They've jumped out. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm not too fast.
Just checking the IDs at the moment. Lots of scrolling up and down.
Normally, we do manage to balance that one out. I think more importantly, we just have to balance the game out right now. We've got 14 kings, and we definitely don't. And we definitely need less than that.
Nearly did a twig and started specking people.
Okay, the last of them is that 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll throw Mazza as the next 65. I'll put the bonus on them.
Good day, Nexus TV. Glad that you've become hooked on Beyond All Reason. We do seriously enjoy it. There's a nice mix of games in Beyond All Reason. I think King of the Hill is one of the most unique. But we will definitely. But there's also the large events like the 50k event where we do see those absolutely huge style battles. Not to mention, if you run your own lobbies, you can include things like the extra units packs. You can include things like Legion, and the game becomes something even more chaotic. But glad you enjoyed the massive explosions. Good day, OP Man Bar. You can self-destruct the kings in order to gain the... you can self-destruct the comms as kings to reclaim the medal. What you can't do is create an infinite loop of reclaiming and destroying. So, for example, if you put a couple of res bots on that are reclaiming it and a couple that are on that are resing it, it will just generate metal. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore, but it certainly was a while ago, and that's the sort of thing that we do not allow.
Just checking Tiny Terror is actually there.
Tiny Terror, can you post in chat to make sure that you are there?
Otherwise we will rotate out that king. We do need to make sure that everyone's in there. And if he does rotate out, or she, well, I said another Silver Shav jump down there, or someone with a lot of experience. Tiny Terror is there. Nice. We just had Overwrite jump up to Team 1. And another. Let's get some more experience down the bottom. High OS or high skilled King of the Hill players. We don't want to see a repeat of the last game, preferably.
I've just had someone ask if we can just put a name to the voices. So for those of you listening, I am Pradith.
And Twig with the sick croaky voice.
And I'm Tank Tom.
If you want to see
we get
more
used
from
to
us,
knowing.
we got a YouTube, AllReasonNoLogic, and Twitch as well. We stream on Twitch also on Wednesdays for some Wacky Wednesdays shenanigans for mostly versus AI, and then some stupid games versus each other.
So it looks like we need one more king to join in.
Looks like we've got the one more king.
Okay, it's 9.
And on it, Tiny Terror's ZZZs have gone away. So we should be basically ready to go. We just got to pop that 10th king back into team 1.
I think we should be good to go.
Alright, let's get this one underway. I do believe the extra unit pack is on. Is Legion on? Legion is on, so this one will be a bit more of a chaotic game.
I believe unit pack, or is it just the build power?
I believe it's the build power.
Yeah, it's the chainable build power.
Glad that you've made a comment, considering you're lurking quite a lot, Nexus. But for everyone who is just lurking in the chat, we appreciate you all the same.
Thanks for joining us, Huncho. Great that you found the game. It's quite a lot of fun.
And while we are loading in, I'll just take this time to plug the game. If you are watching and you do not play it already, you can just jump onto the Beyond All Reason website and you can download the game for free. If you want to join us in the King of the Hill lobbies, you're always welcome. We have we leave these ones open. The only thing that we ask is that if you want to play in the king's position, you at least can get to T2 with a fusion and units, as well as all of the T2 extractors by that 10-minute mark with some defenses. Beyond that, you're basically good to go. Got a meta time where the game is about to start once everyone's in position, and we'll run through exactly what's going on once that happens. So if you're happy to stick around for just a moment, you'll get the full rundown of what's going on. But in short, it is King of the Hill.
Already getting this lag pre-screen. You can never tell where you're going to spawn. Once you click, it reacts about 30 seconds later. I'm liking all the silver chevrons on the King's team. Oh, Rosie, you've wrecked that. Play more hours.
Play as many hours as is viable for you. You got to do what you got to do. Does look like only 9 in the middle. Shooter is trying to start in the middle, but the lava barrier should be a fairly obvious exception. Interesting one today. I'm seeing Emir in a frontline position. I think at least that's the first I'm noticing that one. I look forward to seeing exactly what they can do at that 10-minute mark.
I think Emir went frontline against me last week and dominated. Like, so many comms were given to him and just D-guns so much of my stuff. I mean, I didn't fall, but it took forever to get through Emir.
Funny story about D-guns, and even the D-guns out of decoy commanders, you can actually use them to change the topography of the map and funnel units into kill boxes if you throw down about 1,000 D-guns in one spot. Not information that'll ever be relevant, but it's still cool that it can happen.
The fun things we found out when trying to test stuff at one point. That was from that night we were trying to work out how you can hold off near infinite amounts of T1, wasn't it?
Yeah, so there was we had a week where some players coordinated absolutely everybody to attack 2 ramps at once, and so there was about 1,000 units pouring down 2 ramps. We needed to work out if there was any counterplay or not, because if there's no counterplay, we unfortunately would have to make some sort of rules adjustment. But we did find that pounders are in fact the answer to a massive T1 units, and it's a pretty cheap answer too. Alright, hello and welcome everyone to AllReasonNoLogic's King of the Hill, where we shove 9 commanders in the middle of the map and we put them up against the Horde. In this case it is a 9 versus 75, and if you notice there was one blue comm starting in the middle, he has become a metal donation. So what is King of the Hill? King of the Hill is a game type made possible by the community as well as the moderators, and it is where we have the masses versus the condensed middle. These guys in the middle have a plus 75% bonus, which gives them the opportunity to scale like absolutely nobody else, but they do have to contend with absolutely everyone gunning for them. To make it fair, there is a 10-minute no rush that is denoted by the lava around the outside of the map that will drop, and once it drops, all chaos will break loose. There is no air on, there are some minor tweaks on for a few extra units, and in this case we do have Legion on. Couple of things to bear in mind: do not use structures offensively. That means don't build your rattlesnakes and gauntlets in such a way that they would be able to hit your opponent's buildings. Totally fine for defenses, just build them far enough back that they are defending the choke points, not that they are being used offensively. Make sure you don't put siege units up on the high ground before 10 minutes as well. We don't want those mexes going to the void in that first 10 minutes. Couple of things to note: if you're a king, you're really going to want to get to T2 as fast as possible. Don't waste your time on building defenses until the 7 to 8 minute mark. Every single bit of metal that you can chuck into your early economy will pay itself off in spades later on. You really do need to scale. With the plus 65 that is going on, it is very, very achievable to hit 2 fusions, the conversion needed to turn it into metal, a T2 lab, and defenses by that 10-minute mark. And then you've got to get pushing very, very quickly. If the peasants are left to their own devices, it can be very hard for the peasants to get up those ramps. Peasants, if you're in these corners, the name of the game is Co-op Eco. Work together, only get 1 T2 lab, distribute those T2 constructors, and do your best to match eco with the kings in the middle. If you work together, it's much better. If you are directly in front of a ramp, you have a choice. You can either get offensive with units or defensive with structures. The players on either side of you should take note from that, but at minimum there should be at least a little bit of pressure coming out from each ramp. And if you are in one of these positions on the left or right of the map, cower in fear. You guys have no support from the corners, as well as less players overall. You've got the space, but the question is, can you survive the power of the kings? We shall see. These are the points that can be broken most easily by the kings. Having a look down on the map, we have Twig, one of the normal members of AllReasonNoLogic, getting his economy up and rolling, getting those converters down, getting the wind down, and getting the build power down. Just getting ready for that T2 transition. Going to be working as best as he possibly can to get all of those mexes T2'd, as well as a fusion up and running. One of the things Twig does when going for T2 is he accumulates some of the metal in his bank before building, which means that when the T2 comes down, it should come down very quickly. Different players have different strategies for this one, but I quite like it because it's no different having it in your bank versus having it halfway into the advanced lab. It also means that those converters were working longer and more wind could come up. With 500 wind in the bank, this should come up in no time, especially with the reclaim on the metal storages. Looking around the map, we do have simple ideas in the middle of the map, going for the T2 as well with his 8 mexes. This player is going to be critical in working out, in patching any holes at that 10-minute mark.
A lot of kings blowing their comms this game.
Do not like that. I hope they're not
They're
fully
down to
reclaiming
3.
their...
Oh my god, there's only 3 comms for the kings. That's terrifying. That means they basically can't be used offensively at all.
No. It looks like some of them are potentially resable still.
We learned this the hard way the other week. Like, we will die.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of them have left the comms so they can res them. But we shall see what happens.
Just having a look here from Cookie Mazza. They are putting down those overcharged metal extractors. I do like those. Instead of giving the 1.5, which is then added, 65% is then added to that, as well as a little bit of energy, they're giving 3.8. These things pay themselves off very quickly. provided that you have enough energy to actually power them. If you don't have enough energy, then they drop down to that 1.9 metal extraction. So it's only worth it if you actually build enough wind to accompany them. Otherwise, they're just going to be some dead weight. And one of the things that
is the overflow is keeping them alive for him.
One of the things which is definitely worth doing, if you advanced exploiter, that's not what I would put there. That's a lot of metal investment early on. Anyway, not bothering to put the advanced exploiters in the map because they're in the base, because those are the ones that are going to be converted to T2s, which are better than the advanced sooner rather than later. So you got to balance where you put them. Looking around the map, we're looking for the telltale signs of those co-op eco corners, and it does look like we're starting to see it in the top right. Lingerone is managing their first fusion right now. They haven't reclaimed their lab, so mostly this must be off of donations from people. Usually you would reclaim your lab to get that up and running, but this one is going to come up nicely. It does need a little bit more conversion on the left-hand side. In the classic eco corner,
the powerhouse corner,
Pormont, Ortab, Cookado, I Kill You for Fun, Milady, all working towards that APHIS. Does look like that's going to be up in the next minute or so if they don't run out of metal, which I think they are going to. They're getting donations from other players though, so hopefully they'll get some of that metal donated to them, which is what they need. They're going to stall out at 85%, which means they need about 1,000 more metal, which they are getting given, which is fantastic. That's going to be an APHIS at just over 7 minutes, which is crazy for one of these corners. I think the best we've seen is a 5-minute APHIS, but the number of players working towards that was intense. I do believe 10 comm detonations went into getting that up and running.
And if we compare that to the middle, a lot of the Kings are working on their fusion reactors. A couple of them have finished it onto their second. Twig's just finished his second fusion reactor, so he's in a good spot. But they are nowhere near it finishing their APHIS.
Interestingly, Twig a little bit behind on his conversion. He's got 4,300 NG income, but only 1,900 conversion. But that is helping the rest of his team. You can actually see, if you look closely on the side, not everyone is bouncing off of the full energy mark, which means that all of that energy is being consumed by the team, so it's not a total loss. He is helping the other players get their things up. And if we look on this left-hand side, Baby Elvis is grabbing that advanced fusion, which should come up pretty soon. That should be up with a minute to spare or so. Does need a bit of extra build power, but will be metal starved. Too much investment into defenses early on, though they will be needed to hold some more.
He's got enough build power to spend the metal that he's got.
Oh, that's
as you're saying.
There we go. There goes the next little bit down. Hopefully he will reclaim some of those. Yep, reclaiming the wind for the extra little bit of metal, and hopefully reclaiming those metal storages for the same thing too as needed. Looks like we're approaching the start of the at
the point where you want to start getting those T2 labs up, getting those units massing, have those defenses getting relatively close to being finished. Ideally you finish your first fusion, then you can get up all of your defenses as you start transitioning across into having your army up and running.
Sleepy, what are you doing? I know exactly what you're doing. Oh, this is good. So we did talk about that tech for funneling units down. That is exactly what's happening here. IB Sleepy is changing the topography, so there is only a narrow gap. Please don't block off any lanes completely. That's something we should say. But I do love the ingenuity here. Alright, with 20 seconds to go, let's bandbox the map and see what is going on. We have 500 units on the field, and it doesn't look like as big of a build-up for the peasants as last time, and the defenses are significantly stronger across the board here. So as the lava drops in just a few seconds, we should start to see the action flow. Question is, where is going to be the first point of contention? It does look like it is the bottom side of the map. It does look like Hot Potato a veteran of this game mode is going to be attacked first. Some of the defenses are up, some of them are not. And thankfully, though, the important ones do seem to be. But these goblins are looking for the holes between the defensive positions. They are finding some damage onto one of the twin guards, but they're going to be cleaned up very nicely by the fiends. Hopefully those fiends continue on to help deal with these stouts, because those will do a decent amount of damage to Tiny Terror.
Deep.
Oh, top side of
the
the map.
has been finished, but there isn't any units coming out of Baby Ibis on that side. Managed to eat things with the build power, but there's some leaks that have made it into the middle as well.
Oh no, and those build turrets are going to go. Hopefully the rest of the build turrets will be able to clean these ones up quickly. They do have the commands to do it, and they are going to be cleaned up. But those holes are causing problems, and the goblins being so cheap and being so decent, they are starting to get into Grumpiness's base. Thankfully, no real damage there. Rin heading in with his comm, but it may lose it to the welders, depending on how... Nope, looks like it's going to be okay. Stabilization is what we have right now. Does look like the early game aggression phase has ended, and we're going to move into a more stable defense, hopefully a push out.
Looks like that rattle should probably be slightly further back so that it can't hit
rattlesnake
those on the top.
That rattlesnake is definitely too far forward, Avalon. The no use of offensive structures applies to both sides. You have to make sure that you can't be targeting the kings.
They could sit it about there somewhere so that it can hit basically the bottom of the ramp, but not hit the where the bases are up the top there.
Correct. So try to make sure when you place those ones that you are not placing them offensively, because as you see right now, Emir, one of the premier players in the match right now, completely stunted by just the first couple of shots from a defense being put down. Does look like that has been taken out, so it should be unpaused in just a moment and continued on. We do apologize about that, Emir. Hopefully you will be able to get back into the game shortly. If anyone in the area can give Emir some things to try and make up for the losses he's just undertaken, that would be greatly appreciated to balance this one out. It does look like a push is coming through from J Frost and Kokado. Some of these hoplites as well as a T1 grunt screen trying to break their way in, but unfortunately the pounders are a very big threat. Unfortunately, very slow.
T1.
Which means that the hoplites that went the other way
are
going to
make their way in.
Through. And these ones are getting into the base. No worries. They have taken out the construction power, and they're going for the conversion. Good amount of damage there. I don't think that they'll get the... No, they won't get the fusions, but with the... Oh no, with more coming in, they may well get the fusion. If they position themselves right, they should be able to get themselves the... the damage, the surround bonus, and stay somewhat out of range, but because of trying to toe that line a little bit too much, taken out by the Beavers and the Twin Guards, but they did get one of them.
In that situation, you can use the fusion as cover from those static defenses. If they were to stand on the other side, they would have been able to take it down without taking any damage themselves.
But the Pounders almost certainly would have caught up to them in that situation, so it is always a risk-reward situation. And right now, these Pounders are now trying to fight into Incinerators. This is not what Pounders are good at. The Pounder shot does decent damage, but it is an AoE type of weapon, and these Incinerators are basically using lighter versions of the beams that the Sol Invictus uses, which means they are ludicrously good at taking out things one after another. So all of those Pounders coming to half of the health of the Incinerator, and most of the health taken off was actually from the Banisher in the back there.
Push coming out from Grumpiness in that next lane over is going to be held off relatively well by those Dragon Wars and LLTs, although with these snipers coming through as fire support, they're going to make it up this ramp. There's not much that's going to stop them once they get through these defenses.
One of the comments that I do tend to make a lot, and even I don't follow this advice, is putting T1 units in front of the T2. Those welders took a lot of damage getting up the hill, and if there'd been just a few hundred medals worth of pawns, I reckon it could have been significantly less. But yes, the snipers are up the hill, the welders are spreading out to try and defend them, and damage is going to be done in a big way. comms need to get in there to try and deal with this, even though it's going to be a struggle, but a single comm detonating inside of that ball will completely shut it down. Other players need to start getting the units into that area. The co-op corners sending units, everybody's sending units. You got to try and clean this up before too much damage is done. Looking at the bottom of the map though, yeah, a very large push with the Fiends coming out of Hot Potato. He did have to struggle at the beginning against an attack, but now the Fiends are in on the other side and they are just cleaning up eco after eco.
And with this many Fiends, you will lose some, but when you've got a nice mass of them, you can basically throw them through commanders. The commanders will go pop. They'll take out a whole chunk of your units. But at this stage, you essentially know there's going to be commanders at the top of every ramp.
Oh dear.
So if you can kill them and get into some of the ecos, then at this stage of the game, I still count that as a win.
On the top half of the map, we have pulsars, rattlesnakes, and more pulsars out of Rosie and Grumpiness that are being used offensively. Those do need to go. Unfortunately, we're getting quite a few rule breaks this time. This is significantly more than we've seen in basically the last 3 streams combined. You do need to be very mindful of where you build things.
But you can't have them so that you can deny those mexes to the other team. We've seen some great setups before where people have... I'm trying to see if we've got any at the moment where they've got some of those longer range static defenses but set back far enough so that they defend the ramp but not the middle sections.
Alrighty then, those have been cleaned up, so we should be back into the action, and it is really kicking off in this bottom side of the map. One of the good things for the peasants though is Fiends being so close range. The things that they do detonate tend to deal damage to the Fiends themselves. So running through wind, going near converters, you will actually start losing the Fiends. So even though their damage is ridiculous and their speed is ridiculous, they are manageable.
As a push, they tend to peter out relatively quickly.
But they are great for breaking positions, and as is being used here, the Arbiters are now firing into some of the eco positions, Fiends being used to screen for them, and hopefully those Arbiters will stick around, just dealing a lot of damage over time.
And now that they've been able to get some vision up there, they know what they're shooting at as well.
Just like to point out that the Incinerator that was taking out all those Pounders is up to 50 kills. These things are crazy. At the price of a Mammoth, I think these things are significantly better than a Mammoth. The heat ray is just bonkers. And I do think that that is going to always be... I think that's going to be quite the balance issue to overcome for Legion.
Yeah.
I don't think that once Legion starts rolling, I don't think there's any force in the game that can really stop it individually. What we need to see is Grumpiness coming down with those snipers to take out these Incinerators and help Avalon get back into the match. His push has been blunted, which means it's time to shore up those defenses and work together to try to win this one.
A lot of metal sitting there.
Whoever wins that metal field is going to be in a good position, and right now it almost certainly will be Emir, who's got the potential, who's got all the reclaim bots down there. So hopefully that will turn into a thing. Coming from the middle of the map, it does look like we're getting a huge push of Centurions. This is almost certainly not the unit I would pick to defend here.
Into those incinerators, you need something with range.
As Classic is saying, oh my god, XP farm. So one of the things, if you're not aware of this, units that when you kill units, you do gain XP, and your units do get better and better. They get things like increased max health, they get things like increased fire rate. So you do have to be careful what you send. These continuous, this is not the way for defending. When you're in the middle and you've got that APHIS income, you definitely do not need to be throwing tier 1 units at the problem. You want to be throwing tier 2 and probably even tier 3 units at the problem.
That incinerator is up to plus 46% max health. So it's going to get harder and harder to kill it.
Something to also note, the more expensive a unit is, the less XP it gets from kills, which means that something like a Juggernaut can farm thousands and thousands of ticks before getting much of any sort of improvement. does look like the T3 is starting to roll out of the Kings, and it is a bit ahead of the Peasants. Hopefully that'll give them the advantage for pushing out, because right now things are not looking super good for the Peasants. The bottom side of the map is doing a good job of breaking through, but the reality is it is only some of the frontline players that have been taken out. The eco powerhouses, as well as even the ecos of the frontline players that were a little bit set back, are not currently at threat. And as long as the comms are used effectively, then a lot of these will be taken out. For example, in the bottom middle, these Karganeths, they may or may not take out this comm in time. One of the things you have to make sure you do is get in just the right position. Kejada was lucky there, and they were able to take out a lot of those Kargis, but you have to make sure you're close enough to pop D-gun after D-gun after D-gun. If you're going to be walking between those D-guns, there's a very good chance you'll be taken out before you manage to get the damage done. Looking at the top though, everybody really does need to be helping Avalons. Avalons is under a huge amount of threat here, and if one king falls, it's going to be a problem for absolutely everybody. And we're seeing the potential for those to fall.
Exactly, make their way in.
I didn't want to say it out loud until such a time as they revealed themselves, but the Gremlins have gotten in, and by destroying the conversion, that's another reset for Avalons. Avalon's going to be completely unable to defend here without help, but thankfully the right kind of units are coming out of the player in the middle. Simple ideas. The Assimilator is the name of the game when we have these extra bits and pieces turned on. The Assimilator has good range, good damage, and the damage is quite well focused. Enough of these can create a concave that is very difficult to break through. So I do think that we're going to have a good potential out of the Kings now they're mass producing those. And speaking of a good showing, Twig is finally doing something, and is starting to try to make his way up the ramp behind the assimilators of that have been handed to him. Yeah, did you build those, Twig?
I did.
No, they're definitely handed to him.
Definitely handed to him. Twig is terrible at the game, so he wouldn't have been able to build those. I don't even think he knows how to get to T3.
Yes,
as we can see, he's got his T3.
Not mine.
His T3 tanking for his ticks.
Definitely the way that you want to go about that one. The T3 is the unit you use to tank for the tick. Everybody knows the tick is the most important unit in the game, unless of course you're Twig, in which case he says that it is a duck. For those of you that don't even know what a duck is, I don't blame you. But good at pushing now happening out of the Kings. The bottom left side has broken through almost completely. Unfortunately, the eco scaling out of the left corners players just isn't enough to break this back, and now that the units are up here in force, they're not putting out units fast enough to be able to solve the problem, and that's going to be the first corner
of that napalm previously. We've got some of those, is it belches down here?
I'm actually very surprised that we don't see more of that napalm when we do have the Legion enabled, but one thing to bear in mind is that the damage over time is actually quite slow, and that definitely does, in King of the Hill, which can be quite a fast game, that definitely can make a difference.
The other thing is, it does damage both ways, so once you've fired it, you basically have to wait for it to clear before you can move up and fire again.
Basically all of the res bots going down to self-fire damage, so you do have to be quite careful with it. It is a tool of war that has to be used, that has to be employed very carefully. It does look like this bottom left-hand side is going to go down. That is the first co-op corner cleared, and it does look like a second one is getting ready to fall as the assimilators are being powered out by Twig on this side of the map. It also looks like the Sol Invictus is getting its knocks in out of Baby Elvis, coming up with all of that T1. This is where those comms are so critically important. The things like Sol Invictus have to be targeted with maximum priority, because it is very hard to take down a Sol Invictus. It has the health, it's got the death lasers, and once they start building up in numbers, there's very little that can get even close to them.
Particularly when they've got T1 in front providing vision for them.
Very much so.
Makes it very hard to get the comms up in front.
And a nice play here out of Baby Elvis, going for the reclaim here as well, so he's going to be turning the enemy bases into more Soul Invictuses, hopefully. Twig, though, on the warpath, tried to break the top and decided that wasn't a good idea and is now headed down to the bottom. Comms not invisible at this point in the game. The comms should be invisible at all times. When they're standing still, their energy shouldn't even be a noticeable loss. The question is, can the remaining comms deal enough damage with that nice split between the units going up the ramp? Potentially not. A decent D-gun right there, but only the one D-gun coming out of the comm. Three of those assimilators taken down. I do love the assimilator, but in King of the Hill, it is a unit that has almost no cap to its power. I would take an entire army of assimilators over a handful of the Soul Invictus just because of their sheer utility. They're great for defense, they're great for offense, they've got good speed, and it does look like this next corner is getting ready to fall. Unfortunately, with only 2 Aphises up in this top right-hand corner at the 23-minute mark, that is just not going to be enough to defend against all of the forces that are now collecting for a major attack at this point. T3 demons wreaking havoc and moving along J-Frost's base and starting to make their way towards their Twig, building up for a second attack. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, we have the Soul Invictuses. They have built up to 3 that are pushing right now, and that huge amount of T1 in front of them makes it nearly impossible for a comm to take them out now. They do really have to be dealt with quickly. The eco on this side, though, is reasonably formidable. We do have the 7 Aphises as well as a large wind economy. We've got spam, we've got Soul Invictus coming up, and we do have some very strong comms dealing damage to the T3 units that are pushing in, but it is going to be a struggle to defend from this. The stacking of Soul Invictus cannot be underestimated.
Yeah, once they get rolling in packs, comms are basically sacrificial units that you try and get close enough to start degunning. But when they keep those Soul Invictus separated, there isn't too much that can really be done, particularly when they're paying attention and can wipe out the comms.
Oh no, unit cap.
Twig, you've got to swap your build turrets over for T2 build turrets. You've got to eat the last few wind you've got there. You've got to eat the build turrets that aren't in range of anything, and you've got to eat those T1 converters to manage. You also should detonate all of your mines.
Ah, yes, mines.
So for anyone who's watching, something that you should definitely learn, the mines do take up unit cap. It's not going to be an issue in many games, but if you're playing in the King of the Hill events, if you're playing in any of the massive games around the 50k, 100k, that sort of thing, the celebration events, then that will definitely become an issue that you need to bear in mind, particularly for the King of the Hill. The combined total of the peasants is... Whoa.
Ready for pops down bottom right.
Where are we looking?
So what we just saw on the corner of the screen there was one comm getting a D-gun on 2 of the Soul Invictus, and the combined explosion of the 2 Soul Invictus and the comm destroying the 3rd one, and that's what we're talking about how necessary the comm defenses are, because that is this attack slowed significantly. Those Razorbacks are getting absolutely minced by the Soul Invictus, but it can only fire in so many places, and unfortunately, even though I reckon that this could have been held if it had been just that fraction earlier, that is not the case, and the T1 got in, the Razorbacks got in, and that last bit of damage was enough to take out most of the eco of that corner. And that does mean that the Kings have managed to find their way into all of the corners at this point. They've done a fantastic job of breaking this map apart. Very well played.
How close that was at the start.
Yep, it was very close at the start.
Very close to breaking.
I think that if we had had a stronger eco out of the bottom left and bottom right, in the background with those pushes, I think we might have seen something a little bit different this time. Or if we'd had more players rushing into the middle of the map. That also could have helped a lot as well. We're just looking at the last few holdout positions. We're going to see a nice Aphis explosion here as Rosie manages to find one of the triple stacks of remaining Aphis. And then on the bottom, then one of the last powerhouses left is the Psychist. Managed to stay, and Zenita, who managed to stay somewhat unknown during all of this. They got ignored when the corner was taken out, so this will be the last position for everyone to go for. Twig, how do you think this one felt?
It was alright. I didn't push out anywhere near as fast as I should have, given that I had one of the easier lanes. I've done good damage, but the players on the right-hand side did a pretty good job of defending.
They did. Overall, I think that this game had some real potential to shut down the Kings in the early part of the game, but unfortunately just not quite enough aggression. There were so many leaks that made their way in, but the Kings were able to overcome them. Once you do have pressure on, you really do need to keep it on, because once simple ideas took over with those assimilators coming out in mass, it turned into an incredibly hard fight.
Well, there goes my eco.
I suspect this cleanup's gonna be relatively quick. Either way, Xenia's building up some walls, but they're not going to be able to hold off against the T3 that's on the march.
Correct. Oh, it looks like we also had... So the Sol Invictuses were archaic Sol Invictuses. It looks like they have 4 lasers instead of 2. So it looks like the tweaks we have to the extra unit pack, they're supposed to only allow the extra build turrets, but based on the fact that I'm seeing some epic fusion reactors, it was just the regular extra unit pack that was turned on. We'll have to make adjustments for that next time.
Yeah, with all those extra units, once the Kings can get rolling with them, it gets ridiculously hard to stop them.
Correct. And that is the last comm for the Peasants team going down. And even though we went down to 3 comms for the Kings team, it looks like at the end of the match they finished with 11-2 ahead of their starting point. Well played to everyone, and that'll be the last one for tonight, I do believe. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you haven't already given a follow or a like to the official streams, please do that. If you want to play the game, jump onto the official website, the Beyond All Reason website. Join the community on the official Beyond All Reason Discord, and if you enjoy what we've done here as All Reason No Logic, please do jump onto our YouTube and our Twitch. Give us a like and a follow. I do believe that another King of the Hill video would have gone live just now. That one is commentated by me, and it was one of the better played games last week. You'll be able to see Tank Tom enjoying Legion as it's meant to be.
We're going to raid 2 Pumps, who is Grumpiness, by the way. Who's going to be part of the after party hosted by Nightmare Flow. And any other mods that are in there.
Very nice, very nice. And a big thank you to the mods that have made this possible. They do open up the lobbies, they do moderate things, and they help us with any of those rule breaks. This wouldn't be possible at this scale without you guys. They also are the ones that help to get the streams up and running, particularly on the YouTube. So thank you to them for that one. I have been Predith. Joining me in the casting booth has been Tank Tom, and Twig has been the one playing in most of these games. Hope you've enjoyed us. Hope you find us on the YouTubes and Twitches, and we hope to hear from you. Don't forget to join our own Discord. AllReasonNoLogic's Discord links will be posted here and there, particularly on our main channels. If you're interested, we do a Wednesday night stream, which is where we do most of our community interaction.
All right, just posting those there, and then we'll jump over to the raid shortly, which I'll do for you, Tom.
Yeah. Shout out to Huncho, and thanks for the sub, and we'd love to see you in some of the King of the Hill games when you get around to it. And I think with that, we're going to be pretty much wrapping up our session for the night by the look of it.
That's it. We'll jump on with the raid, and thank you all for watching.
Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed the stream. We're going to pop this on the end screen, and we'll set that raid up.
Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans,